What we have here is the classic of all classic Calc 1 problems where we're given the graph of the original function up above here. So that's the graph of f of x that we're looking at up there. And then they want us to read off of that graph which of the following could be the graph of f prime, the derivative of f. And so down below here, we have a bunch of f prime of x, a bunch of derivative graphs. That's kind of the first thing you want to note on any problem with graphs is what equation am I looking at? From there, again, like I said, this is the basic of all basics. When we go to read off the derivative off a graph, we got to be able to do that. And we use what I call my derivative triangle. So remember that derivatives are always talking to us about the slope of a graph. So how much it's moving up, moving down, or horizontal. So if you look at your graph and your graph is headed up and increasing, that's going to be a positive slope and a positive derivative. If your graph is headed down and decreasing, well, that's a negative slope or a negative derivative. And then if your graph is going horizontal for a moment, that's going to be a zero slope and a zero derivative. And we see those things, those are usually what we call critical values. They happen most often at maxes and mins, but they can also happen just when our graph goes sideways for a minute. So the first thing I do is I go over to my derivative, or excuse me, I go to my original function, and I just start marking off pluses and minuses and zeros based upon what my graph is doing. So this f graph, my original graph here, is starting off decreasing. So this would all be negative derivatives. Negative, 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 negative. At the bottom here, that's when it goes horizontal just for a second. So that's my zero right there. And then after that, my graph is headed up. Positive, positive, positive. It's all increasing all the way, all the way, all the way up to the top there. And then I hit another zero. I get another horizontal tangent line there. And then from there, I'm back into a decreasing, decreasing, decreasing section. Negative, 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 negative derivatives through that. When I come down below now to look at my graphs, what I want to now remind myself is anywhere that graph was positive up there, that's going to be in the positive section, the positive y values of my derivative graph. Wherever that graph is in the negative up there, wherever it was decreasing, those are going to be negative numbers down here. Those are going to be negative y values. Remember, we're graphing the derivative. And the most important part and the easiest one to find is to remember that anywhere we would have a zero, that's where we're going to hit the x-axis down here because we're going to have a slope of zero at those points. And those really are kind of the first points you want to go after. These are what we call our critical values when we're doing first derivative tests. So this would be a critical value happening right here on my derivative graph. And that zero would also have a critical value, a zero happening down here. So the first thing I want to go find are at those two places right there on my answer graph, I need to have a zero. So the easiest one to find is it crossing the origin at zero? Well, this one is. And if I look over, that is happening somewhere around here. That definitely could be my A and my B from up above. This one doesn't have that zero at the origin right there, so I know that can't be my graph. I come over here, okay, I see I got my zero at my origin, and then I've got another one a little bit further over, so that could be my A, and that could be the B. D is missing that zero at the origin, so that's not going to be my answer. And E is also missing that zero at the origin, so that's not going to be my answer. So then from there, what I need to do is I've got two answers left that could possibly be the answer. And now I come back and start reading off the positives and negatives. So to the left of my critical value, my graph is negative everywhere. And so that should be negative y values on my derivative graph. Well, that should mean that my graph should start off on the bottom over here in the negative space before A. Well, this one definitely doesn't. This one starts off in the positive space, so that would have been an increasing, so that's not my answer. When I come over and look at C, I can see that, yep, before A here, which matches up with this section, my graph is entirely down below with negative y values. Then if you just want to complete the rest of it, you'd say, okay, well, between A and B, I'm going through this whole section here, which is all positive. So between A and B, my graph should be positive, and sure enough, it is. And then after B right there, my graph goes back down into the negative, and so I should expect the negative values after that. And sure enough, graph C has all the things I'm looking for, and so graph C would be my final answer. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, please click that like button and subscribe. And also share it with your friends and anyone else you know who might be crying about an upcoming AP Calc test. You can find more videos from me, more sample AP Calc questions, and my complete AP Calc study guide over at my website, apcalcprep.com. Have a great one.